What's up, YouTube? John back with a video today highlighting my original comic art collection. For those tuning in for the first time, I know it's been a while since I've done a video. Kind of a little bit of background on myself. I've been reading comics since the late 80s. Used to read the comics my brothers would pick up, and then in the early 90s, with Batman the animated series and X-Men the animated series, which still have the old VHS that I recorded. That's when I kind of got into comic collecting pretty heavy, and collected probably into the late 90s. Then I took, I want to say, close to a 10-year break. Started collecting again around 2008, but it wasn't until I came across the YouTube comic community around 2012, 2013. I still remember watching Lightning and Omega Shinryuken's videos that I started getting to collecting CGC slabs, going for the Bronze Age, Silver Age keys. And then one of the YouTube members, Jimmy C, started showing off some original comic art. So that got me fascinated. I started going towards the art side of collecting, and went with sketch covers initially, then bigger commissions, and then eventually published art. So, what is original art? Original art is basically a unique piece of artwork, one of a kind. And that's, I think, what appeals to a lot of art collectors, knowing that you have a one of a kind piece versus, in comics, there's multiple um, books available in different grades. And it could be published where it's mass produced by, one of the big publishers, Marvel, DC, or Image, or, the smaller publishers, or whether or not it's artwork on the side of a toy package, but something that is visible to the public versus a non-published piece where it's just a commission in your collection that's not really published anywhere else. So I wanted to highlight this first piece because it's probably one of my first bigger commissions done. This was done by Carl Alstetter, highlighting Batman and a lot of his key villains that I got done. I want to say 2014, I think. And then this, a few years later, I got it colored, and Carl actually turned this into a print. So thrilled to still have this in my collection. And then this piece right here was my first published piece of original art that I owed. Was done by Tyler Kirkham, one of my favorite modern artists. Here is a splash page featuring the first meeting between Deathstroke and the Red Hood. So, with published art, you can have panel pages where there's multiple panels, splash page where it's just one big essential panel highlighting the action. Then you can have a double page spread where there's actually two pages consecutively, or the cover. So depending on, amongst collectors, usually it goes cover, double page spread, then splash page, then panel page, whether or not it's action versus non-action. That's kind of the rough rule of things. But this always will be near and dear to my heart since it's my first published purchase. And then, I still collect a variety of commissions and published art. So these two pieces right here are done by one of my favorite painters, Olivetti, who just celebrated his 25 years with Marvel. But for those that didn't know, Ariel designed the Sideshow collectible statues for both the Hulk vs. Wolverine. You could look at the fine detail. Love his anatomical detail, highlighting all the muscle groups, as well as Apocalypse here. So he was the original designer for both these Sideshow collectible statues, for which the sculptor based the design on, and subsequently those statues were mass produced. And then another one of my favorite modern painters is Granov. Oh, the two pieces I just showed were done in acrylic. With painting, the medium could be watercolor, acrylic, oil, or a mixture of a few techniques. But this was actually done in watercolor. This was a convention sketch that I picked up by Adi, I want to say 2017. Fortunately, because I think his window has closed, he doesn't offer these big of commissions rarely anymore. So glad to have Magneto by Adi in my collection. Then another favorite painted piece So I wasn't the actual original commissioner. This was actually done back in 2010, um, and by the master Gabriel Dell'Otto. And this was done around the time that his miniseries X for Sex and Violence came out. Um, and this was, around the time he wasn't quite as popular as he is nowadays, but he definitely deserved to earn all the recognition. Love his technique. You can see kind of how detailed he is, highlighting the more like a Terminator, but the adamantium beneath the skin. Definitely love his fine detail. Glad to have a Dell'Otto piece in the collection. And then some more published comic art. So this right here is by Jerry Bingham from What If Phoenix Had Not Died. I love this shot right here. Kind of resembles the giant size Xmen cover. Then love these battle sequence shots against the Brotherhood, Pyro, Blob, and Avalanche. Gotta love Nightcrawler bamfing right there. Then another favorite published piece of mine by Tyler Kirkham is this from the Dark Knight's Metal. The Batman Who Laughs is one of the more popular modern characters. Love this bottom panel page of him and the Nightmare Batman. And then this is actually his origin, where in that timeline, Batman killed the Joker and released a toxin, causing him to become this evil, demented version of Bruce Wayne. Another favorite piece, another modern master in my opinion, David Finch, inks by Daniel McGee, of Magneto, essentially shattering Wolverine, not holding back at all. Love David's fine detail. And then another recent acquisition, another modern master, Mark Silvestri. I'm a huge Batman and X-Men fan. Always a fan of Mr. Sinister, so glad to add a cover from X-Men Mosaic Complex. This is the cover to the one-shot as well as the trade paperback. Doesn't hurt to have Wolverine. Inks were done by Weems. And then another cover. This was done by Leno Yu. Cover to Astonishing X-Men #2. A lot of times pictures don't do its justice. Just kind of zooming in so you can see the fine details of Apocalypse here. I was glad to add this one because it's rare to get a solo Apocalypse piece of art. And then, of course, back to commissions. One of my favorite right here by Ariel Olivetti. Kind of love the rich colors in this. Always thought that the unique colors of the Asgardian Rainbow Bridge correlated well with the gems of the Infinity Gauntlet, so asked Ariel to use that as the background, highlighting some of my favorite Marvel villains. You got Magneto, Doom, Hela, Venom, and Dormammu here. And of course, Batman is also one of my favorites. Another piece by Ariel. These are oil paintings featuring Joker, Ivy, Penguin, Batman, Two-Face, Scarecrow. Then I can't leave out Spiderman, of course. Spider-Man's always been one of my favorites as well. Black Suit Spidey, thought it would contrast well with the villain, so asked Ariel to depict the Sinister Six. Got Electro, Vulture. Again, kind of zooming in just so you can appreciate kind of the fine details that a lot of times static pictures don't provide. And ultimately, one of my Grail pieces, this is Magneto by Jim Lee. So one of my favorite pieces, just kind of, I was supposed to meet Jim and his rep, Albert Moy, at this small convention in California, but Jim couldn't make it. So ultimately, he was nice enough to meet up with me at a local coffee shop. So he treated me to coffee. I was able to chit-chat with the GOAT, in my opinion, picked up the piece. So truly a memorable experience. And this piece I foresee staying in my collection forever. And of course, I have to highlight one of my favorite Grails. This is by Greg Capullo, classic first appearance of the Talon from Court of Owls. Pencils and inks done separately. Again, probably one of my favorite pieces. Hope you guys enjoy. Video's about to cut out.